Back WNST as we prepare for the Ravens to go out to Oakland and take on the Raiders on the backside of really an embarrassing couple of weeks from London back to Baltimore with bad football, bad fan behavior, players taking knees, people aghast, all of that stuff. And lo and behold, amidst all of this, the Terps dropped the game that they probably shouldn't have dropped 2 weeks ago and have been dropping quarterbacks as well, and then went out to Minnesota and won a Big Ten game this past weekend. All bets are off this week as Ohio State stands next on the schedule. This guy's covered the Maryland Terrapins for years and years. He is a bit encyclopedic, if that is a word. I believe it's correct. It is a word. And as my longtime friend and one of my mentors at the Baltimore Sun, he is Sports Prof 56 out on Twitter as well as at thebaltimoresun.com. We welcome one of our defending champions, Don Marcus, back on to talk all things Terps. Hey, Don, I'm calling you this week to come on. They must have won last week, huh?
Well, I guess so, but I want to know what did I win if I'm a defending champion?
Eternal love and gratitude from Nestor and our friends at WNST. But, what we won so far is a football season that's relevant right now, right? I mean, this trip out to Ohio State, daunting as it may be, underdog as they were a couple of weeks ago at Texas. The season's taking on some color here and some light with the win in Minnesota, right?
Oh, I think so, because I think there was certainly that after they beat Texas, and then there wasn't that after they lost at home to Central Florida, and more importantly, lost Kasim Hill for the season. I think there was pretty much a feeling that is very familiar to fans in Baltimore and M&T Bank Stadium and Camden Yards, like the season is lost. And then they went out to Minnesota with the third or fourth string quarterback, depending on how you want to look at Max Bortenschlager. And they pulled off a pretty big win as 12 to 13-point underdogs against a team that hadn't lost, against a coach that had gotten a lot of publicity in P.J. Fleck, and against a team that had, in its first three games, against less than stellar competition, it still led the nation in rushing defense, and Maryland sort of exposed that. So I thought, it was a great result. First Big Ten road win for DJ Durkin in his 2 years at Maryland, and I think it sort of gave the fans hope that, as I wrote, if they have equal or better talent, and they have that with a few of the teams in the Big Ten right now, they are going to be competitive this week. Maybe not so much, but as the season goes on, there will be certainly games that they have a chance to win.
What happened against Central Florida? Dare I say I was in London that night having delicious Indian food on the eve of the Ravens' meltdown in Wembley, and the game started at an awkward time, and we were out in the evening, and, I looked up, and it was the fourth quarter, and they're getting waxed, and, I didn't see it. I saw the injury to Kasim Hill, and I know, how explosive he looked and what an incredible athlete he looked like, especially running around against those Towson kids the week before, but, I got caught up in all the drama and all the hype after they beat Texas and in such convincing fashion that maybe this would be a year where they could go on the Big Ten and be representative. I certainly didn't expect what we saw against Minnesota. I mean, it really was a nice bounce back, but it really leads me to say, well, what the hell happened when I was in London, man?
Well, I think there were a number of things. One, go back to last year and the way they won in Central Florida sort of set up a rematch with the one team feeling, okay, we should have won this game on our home turf. Now, when we go back, let's take care of business. So there was a lot of motivation for Central Florida, number one, and a pretty good team coming back from last year with a much more experienced quarterback. When they played Central Florida last year, Mackenzie Milton was playing in his very first game as a college quarterback. Number two, and they did not have any tape on him at the time. And they did a fairly good job. Number two, the Kasim Hill injury cannot be overstated just in terms of what that kid had done, not only on the field in a short time with Maryland, but as a leader of the team. Even from what I hear, even going back to when he used to show up in spring practice, just to watch, people gravitated to him as one of the future leaders. And then when he came as a freshman during the summer, he was already one of the leaders of the team. It was very similar to when Maryland lost Will Likely last year against Minnesota. and sort of the air went out of them when they, when Likely was helped off the field. And I think that happened, on both sides of the ball. And I think that happened again, with Kasim Hill. Defensively, that was a team that, they had studied Maryland pretty well. They were very athletic and big on both sides of the ball. And they did a really good job, sort of exposing Maryland's weaknesses, which Minnesota didn't, because Minnesota was pretty much, I can't say they were a one-dimensional team, but their strength was the running game. And when they shut down the running game, similar to what Central Florida did against Maryland, they limited the passing attack. So I think that Maryland sort of flipped the script on Minnesota last week, what Central Florida did to them, by making Minnesota one-dimensional, and it worked. And again, I think that, in defensive Max Bortenschlager, who showed a little bit here and there, different, he showed at Nebraska, some skills and game managing skills and ability to throw the ball fairly well. I think with a week's preparation as being the number one guy, they worked the game plan to his strengths, and it really paid off. I mean, there were some throws he wished he had back. There were throws that he got lucky with, but he made a lot of great throws. He made a couple of good runs early, and to help show that he could run the ball, and that opened things up for Ty Johnson and Lorenzo Harrison, along with their athleticism. And it also helped that Minnesota was playing without two of its top defensive players in the secondary, Antoine Winfield and McGee. So I think that all of it conspired as much against Maryland the first week with to help Maryland last weekend in Minneapolis.
He is Don Marcus. He covers all things Terps for the Baltimore Sun and has for many, many years. You can follow him at Sports Prof, Prof 56. That's Sports Professor 56 out on Twitter, as well as the author of 100 Things Maryland Fans Should Know and Do Before They Die. That's now out in paperback. You can check that out at Amazon. Buy that through our Give a Spit app and help our friends at There Goes My Hero. And of course, it's Sports Prof 56 on Twitter. You can find him. The Ty Johnson thing's fascinating because every time he touches the ball, he feels sort of like the most special kid in the program right now, right?
Well, he's a tremendous talent, and he has an ability that, especially once he gets to the second level, or third level, or whatever, that he's going to outrun you, and you better get him at the first your first whack at him, or else you may be in trouble. And, this is, again, a kid who didn't come with a lot of fanfare, has had an amazing number of long runs. I mean, he didn't hit the 40 mark the other day only because they were at the 34, but he's had a tremendous amount of, I forget the number of runs over 40 yards in his 3 years, a little over 2 years. And this is a kid who is really, one of the best running backs in the Big Ten. And with the three guys they have, the skill guys they have, Ty Johnson, Lorenzo Harrison, and DJ Moore, especially DJ Moore, because that kid is going to go down, depending on how long he stays, as one of the best receivers ever to play at Maryland. And with those three guys, Max Bortenschlager, a former 3-star recruit, with some, I wouldn't say he has limited skills, but he's not overwhelming, in terms of, he's not that big. He's decent size for a quarterback. He's
make the case for him, because he's certainly very different than what we saw from Kasim Hill or Tyrell Pigram, right?
Oh, definitely. He's a pocket passer, number one. He has some mobility, but he's not a, Kasim Hill is a special player. Kasim Hill is the kind of player that I said before he got hurt, if he stayed healthy, and then, hopefully when he recovers, can go down as one of the great quarterbacks in Maryland history, if he can stay healthy. Tyrell Pigram showed in the opener against Texas that he has some pretty good open field skills, and he threw the ball pretty well. And I think their game plan against Texas also helped him. Bortenschlager is more a traditional pocket passer. He's not a spread offense quarter. You wouldn't think of him as a spread offense quarterback. But I think that in this offense, with the play calling and the creativity of the play calling of Walt Bell, they can expose some of his weaknesses. They can hide some of his weaknesses and sort of play to his strengths. And as long as he gets protection, and that's the key, because he got protection on Saturday, he did not get protection from the offensive line against Central Florida, and then it became a situation where they had to throw, and they knew they had to throw, so they were just teeing off on him. So I think, this week, again, they're playing Ohio State, 31-point underdogs. I'm not expecting very much. Based on last year, if they can keep it under 30, they lost last year 62-3 at home. I think it's a step in the right direction. DJ Durkin would disagree with me, and they think they have a chance to win. I think the interesting thing about that is they're probably they played Indiana in the opening game, and I don't know. I think Maryland and Indiana are probably on a par, but I really think Maryland has more playmakers than Indiana right now. And I just remember the game a couple of years ago when it turned out to be Randy Etzler's last game. Maryland was in the game with some of these same players as freshmen, Ty Johnson, DJ Moore. Maryland was in the game for a half or a little more than a half. And, if Ohio State comes in and takes it lightly, I think that Maryland can play with them for at least that, if not longer. And it could be an interesting game. I am not saying that they're going to win the game, but I think they can make it somewhat respectable in a defeat. And the main thing is for them to stay healthy. I think the biggest goal this week is to come out of it with no injuries and go into a stretch of 4 games where at least 3 of them are winnable with a healthy team, aside from the 2 quarterbacks and Jesse Anabonham.
Ohio State now number 10 ranked in the country according to the AP poll, and having lost to Oklahoma in week 2, they're sort of backs against the wall, right? You expect their best effort moving forward here. There's always a lot at stake for them, and they got Penn State coming up a little later on. They of course got the Michigan game at the end of the year as well, but this feels like sort of garden variety Big Ten action for them on a Saturday, right?
Well, yeah, and they're coming off basically, a 2-week exhibition season of playing Army and Rutgers, where I think Army is a fairly respectable team, Rutgers is not, and so I think that they go back into jump back into a game where it should be more competitive. But I think what Ohio State wants to do is make sure they don't slip any further out of the conversation for either one of the playoff spots or for one of the big bowl games. And they're still, I think, after that loss earlier in the year, I think there's still this feeling in Columbus that do we have a quarterback? Is J.T. Barrett going to be the guy? Is Dwayne Haskins, the kid who started the movement at Maryland and then abandoned the movement and flipped his commitment to the Buckeyes? Is he going to be the guy down the road? Now, J.T. Barrett has had a couple of good games, recently, so I think he'll continue as a starting quarterback. But I think there's questions. They after they lost last year, 31-0 in the playoffs. They made a move and they brought in the former Kevin. I'm blanking on the last name. The former Indiana coach as the offensive coordinator, and so I think that there's still some pressure there for Urban Meyer to show that the product is improved, and we'll see what happens. And
it's Kevin Wilson, correct? Yes.
What's that?
Kevin Wilson, right? And we'll see. We'll see down the road when they play Penn State. The thing about Maryland's schedule is I was looking at sort of the Big Ten rankings that Tom Dienhart does from the BTN, from the Big Ten Network, and he had
Maryland is number 5, and they still have, like, they're playing Northwestern. Northwestern's a little bit suspect, and they're playing Michigan State. Michigan State still, people don't know if they're going to be back or not, but they're better than they were, though they got killed by Notre Dame. And they have Indiana and Rutgers. Those are those 4 games. And then they have to play 1, 2, 3, and 4. They play Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, and Wisconsin. So, the schedule is set up for Maryland to have a chance, probably a good chance at 3 more wins, which would get them to 6. A decent chance at a 4th win, whether it's that might be a Wisconsin, that might be a Michigan State on the road late in the season if things go south again in East Lansing for Michigan State. And, they play Michigan this week, so that'll be an interesting matchup. But I just have a sneaking, I have a feeling that they're going to get one of the Big 4 this year. I really think that they're going to come together at some point and probably be a home game. So, you sort of look at that schedule and you say, okay, Michigan or Penn State. And I just think if they can stay healthy and build from Saturday, I think they could surprise somebody along the, have one of those big upsets, because they have a lot of young developing talent. And this team is only right now, sort of touching the surface as to how good it's going to be a year from now. Now, again, they have to stay healthy, get some of these guys back, and also keep. I mean, DJ Moore is going to be he can go to the draft this year. Ty Johnson can go to the draft. If they can get those guys to stick around, then I think you're talking about a year from now or 2 years from now, this team, this program really being, in at least in the hunt for being one of the top teams in the Big Ten outside of the Big 2 or 3. So, it's definitely trending in the right direction. Unlike, as I get back to my original statement, unlike teams at Camden Yards and M&T Bank Stadium.
Yeah, it's been a bummer here with the Orioles. We got our noses pressed up to the glass watching the playoffs and the usual suspects here this week. Obviously, the Ravens having real struggles with injuries and all sorts of productivity issues on the field. Terps basketball's coming back here again soon too, right, Don? That will be something to look forward to in these here parts. Good optimism there, right?
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to seeing. I'm really looking forward to seeing. They start about a month from. They start a little over a month from. A month from today, I guess, is their first exhibition game, November 2nd, and I think they're going to be an interesting team. I think that I would never say that losing somebody like Melo Trimble is addition by subtraction, because the kid meant a great deal to the program. But I'm really curious to see what those sophomores look like who played so much last year in year 2. How much their games have grown, how much their bodies have grown, because that's a big part of Maryland's program is the strength and conditioning. With Kevin under Kyle Tarp, and again adding a kid like Darryl Morsell from Baltimore, adding this kid Bruno Fernando from Angola. And getting, to me, one of the X factors is going to be this kid Sean Obi, who they brought in as a transfer from Duke, who didn't play a whole lot at Duke, but as a freshman before he got hurt at Duke, he was one of the top rebounders in the country, and that's been a need for them for the last couple of years. And if the kid is healthy, and they say all we need you to do is rebound, play defense, and score a little bit when the opportunity arises, which is what they wanted from LG Gill last year, which he could not provide. I think they have a chance to do something this year that maybe people didn't expect after losing a player like Melo Trimble.
He is Don Marcus, Sports Prof 5'6" is the way to find him, as well as at the Baltimore Sun, as the Terps get ready for Ohio State and ready for then, I guess, the remainder of this. Last thing for you, Don, I just want to go back to the football thing, because you said something really sort of telling about the quality of these players and, Ty Johnson and, whether from the wide receiver position, DJ Moore would be the greatest in the history of the program, or at least in recent times. The quality of the players and the quality of the play overall, has it come a long, long way from Ralph Friedgen and the ACC as far as the quality of the player they're getting? I feel like it has to when you can go beat Texas, right?
Well, if you go back, first of all, it depends on what years you're looking at with Ralph Friedgen. If you're looking at the first 3 years when they averaged over 10 wins a year, and a lot of those players had been recruited by Ron Vanderlinden, and they had players like, and gradually got players like, Vernon Davis and Torrey Smith and players like that. That's the caliber of player they're trying to get, and I think they're starting to get with the DJ Moores and the Ty Johnsons and the Kasim Hills. I think that's what you're talking about in terms of the NFL potential that one of these kids have, as opposed to some of the guys that we've looked at the last few years. And I think that if he continues to get those guys, and again, to Randy Etzel's credit, DJ Moore and Ty Johnson were Randy Etzel recruits, just like some of the guys Ralph inherited from Vanderlinden. So the more players he gets of that caliber, we're going back to that, but it's a different age. It's a different league. They're now in the Big Ten versus the ACC. I think the Big Ten is a stronger league now than the ACC was when Maryland was winning all those games, mainly because when Maryland had that success early on, the first couple of years, Miami and Florida State were down. So, you're not seeing that. You're not seeing that right now with Ohio State and Michigan, maybe a little with Michigan State.
Don, I hope you continue to enjoy this, interesting Terp season, right? If nothing else, it's an interesting season on the football side. I don't know how this is going to play out this week, but I do like seeing the depth. And I think one thing we know, DJ Durkin, this guy can coach a little bit, can he?
Wait, I didn't get the last part.
I said he can coach a little bit, can he?
Well, I'll tell you something. Two things struck me about DJ Durkin's the game plan on Saturday. Not only the overall game plan, but the last drive of the first half when they got a 51-yard field goal out of it, and took the ball with less than about 40 seconds to go, and they drove and they got a guy down. Ty Johnson made a great play getting down so they could kick the field goal and try to go for extra yards, and that's on Ty Johnson as well for being smart, but also the last possession of the game, where they really worked the clock and they really had great play calling. I mean, it really showed you that not only has the talent level improved the last couple of years, but the coaching has improved dramatically.
Well, good news for everybody with the M on their sweater, and we'll get you ready for basketball here in a couple of weeks. It won't be long. Don, always great to visit with you, man. We'll send everybody out to check out your book. How's the book selling? Makes a perfect holiday gift, right, Don?
It certainly does. I'm not sure how it's selling, but it is a good holiday gift.
100 things Maryland fans.
I'm available to sign it, at especially at basketball games where people can see me at press row.
Yeah, absolutely. Always present is Don Marcus. 100 things Maryland fans should know and do before they die. Book's been out almost a year now. I know it feels like 10 years, Don. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Great having you on, bud.
Take care, Nestor.
You got it. Sports Prof 5'6". He is Don Marcus at the Baltimore Sun. Always a wealth of information and insider knowledge on all things Terrapins and College Park. Ravens off to Oakland this weekend. Orioles off to the offseason, the golf course, wherever they are headed. And, of course, our eyeballs headed to playoff baseball this weekend, as well as the Terps headed out to the Horseshoe. We'll see how that goes this weekend out in Columbus. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. The buy at Toyota.com audio vault there for you 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world. Just download the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear. Morning newspaper ships to your email inbox from anywhere in the world. 7 a.m. it comes to you. It's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. If there's any breaking news at all, Some good, some bad, some ugly. We get it to you first. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. And, of course, Dennis will be here on Thursday driving you home from 3 until 5 with the SSV on WNST. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live all over the world on our Facebook Live and our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.